have positioned the chimney on the interior and marked where I'm going to cut out the roof. So I've been carving from the inside. It's a snug fit, that's okay. Filing will correct snugness. Okay, we'll get a drop of canopy glue on this side. And I'll slide around it. Okay, so it's centered, it's vertical, and we'll let it dry. All right, I'm measuring the height of the stairway system, and it comes in at just a fraction under 1/4 of an inch. I will use that as a guide and make the piers 1/4 inch long. Okay, I've set this piece of tape up to indicate a 1/4 inch cut. Okay, I'm measuring this distance. It's 18 feet. So I'm going to mark the center position at 9. Now we'll measure the width. Not an easy calculation, 29.5. Let's see how millimeters work. All right, 68 millimeters is 34 is the middle. Do that. Now I will be using wooden posts on the porches. To determine the depth, I'm using my caliper depth gauge, and that will be the dimension I need for that part. The stairs will be applied in this manner. As can be seen, there's not too much support surface except for the edge of this trim board. So what I have done is I've measured the depth of this from the base to this trim board. I set up that thickness on my table saw, and then I made a strip. Now, to make the chimney liner, I'm going to take 2 pieces of 1/100,000ths channel stock from Evergreen and bond them together to form a rectangular flue. Now that the flues are dry, we can proceed with finishing the chimney. I am marking the flues at 9 inches in length. I have assembled the 2 sections now to make a double flue. I've added a small amount of C8 to the bottom of the flue with a little bit of it on the interior to provide some additional strength. Here are the flues installed onto the top of the chimney. Once the CA has set completely, you can lightly sand the tops of the flues. Now the last step is to add some flashing around the base of the chimney. We'll use the back side of some of our roofing material for the flashing. Okay, I've folded the flashing in this manner, and then I'm going to cut it off, probably about right there. Now I will apply some matte media to the back side. Now I'm going to trim back the overlap on this flashing. I'm going to paint the flues with Vallejo Orange Brown. Okay, the flues are painted orange brown, and the top of the chimney was touched with some stone gray paint to represent the mortared top of the chimney. I will use some Artis Mars Black acrylic paint for the chimney cement. The final step in the process of construction will be to use some powdered pigments to weather the exterior a little more, put dirt and soot onto the outside. All of the pigments that I'm going to use are sold by Bend Scale Consortium. The first one I will use is 1104 Shadow Gray. I get a little bit into the top of the cover and then load up the brush with it, and then tap it out significantly. It's like all other weathering. It's best to apply several light coats than to try to remove a heavy coat. And I'm going to work this just up under the eave line on all four walls. I've cleaned out my brush by rubbing it into a cloth rag until all the previous pigment color is removed. The next color I'm going to use is called Brunswick Green, and I'm going to use that on the steps and porches to indicate areas of foot traffic. Now we will work on the roof, and we'll use some cool black around the chimney and on the flues. I've switched to a much smaller brush for this part. First, I'm going to work some darker pigments into the interior of the flues. Take a little bit of the pigment out of the brush on my cloth. Now add just a touch more onto the brush. This can be overdone quickly, so you just want to use a light amount of this cool black. If you get a little extra dusted around on the roof, don't rub it. The best thing to do is try to blow it off with your breath. I'm adding this on the chimney cement just to change it from real dark black to a little dustier looking black. I don't want it to look like the cement was just applied yesterday. Now you want to be very careful with this technique in dragging down some of the soot down the roof. It's very easy to overdo this. You just want a very subtle tone. So I start up on the chimney cement and I drag down a little bit, drag down. And as you can see, darkens it a little bit, and that's all you really need to do. Now we're going to add a little bit of Timberline Brown to the roof. Doesn't take much. Just want to give it some color variation. And again, this can be easily overdone if you're not very careful. Now the very last step here is to get just a little bit of Timberline Brown on a brush, and then just very lightly hit the surface of the glazing and the windows to apply dirt. I don't think anybody's washed these windows in a long time, so they shouldn't be real shiny. They should have some reflection, but not be shiny. Okay, I think I'm going to call this model complete at this point. Everything should look subtle. I don't want the building to look like a caricature. I want it to show age and the effects of weather, but not to look totally out of proportion. And there you have it, the track worker's dwelling.